Sure? Okay. Welcome, everybody. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m.
Good morning.
Rise and shine. Who's not awake yet?
Me.
Who stayed out too late and partied last night? Glad I'm not alone.
I was a good boy.
Well, my name's Steve McComas. We're here in this session to talk about managed availability and how to make it easier to troubleshoot. My cohort in crime right here is Mr. Cotton. Call him Jay, JC, whatever. He answers to it all just like I do. We also have a good friend that could not make it today by the name of Ben. He's doing work back in Texas, so everybody do me a favor, just say hello, Ben, because he's going to watch this. Thank you, everybody. End of session. We can all go home now. So, here's our quick session objectives, right? We're just going to learn on how Jay and I, over the past several months to almost a year, have worked with managed availability and how to troubleshoot it in the best way possible. Jay is going to go over what managed availability is. Does anybody here not know what managed availability is? Who hates managed availability? All right? Yeah, so do I.
Well, hopefully we're here to make it a little easier there.
But understand that managed availability is your friend. Why? Does anybody have an answer to that? It helps you sleep at night. All right? It does all the things that is, if it detects something, it's going to try to resolve it for you. Who hates the 1, 2 a.m. wake-up calls? See? So just remember, managed availability is your friend. Managed availability is your friend, right? So, like I said, Jay's going to do a quick review over what managed availability is for you, if you're not totally aware.
Thanks, Stephen. So just another cap there. What we're going to be reviewing here is this is going to be a very quick review of managed availability. I think we've all read the blog posts on TechNet, EHLO, talking about managed availability and how it works and what it's doing for you. So I will go over it quickly. However, the more of the point here is to look at this tool we've written. We call it MATS, M-A-T-S, Managed Availability Troubleshooter. It's an EXE that you can actually use to do a lot of those PowerShell commands in the background that you would need to do to troubleshoot managed availability. If you've read Matt Abrams' blog post about this actual thing, it's really along those lines, and we just made it easier in a GUI format that basically anybody can do at that point. Oopsie, let's go back a bit. There we go. So managed availability in overview is composed of three things, right? So there's probes, monitors, and responders. Probes are just that. They're tests, they're synthetic transactions that are running all the time, every second, sometimes every millisecond. And they just run tests, they run tests, they run tests, they run tests, and they really don't care what happens, right? Then we have monitors. The monitors actually consume the results of those tests. So you have monitors for basically everything within Exchange 2013, be it transport, be it IIS, be it OWA, be it Outlook. All of these have their monitoring components. The monitoring components then take those results of the test, whether they failed, whether they succeeded, and change those health states. So when you see in your managed availability, if you do get health report or you get server health, I'll get health report more likely, you'll actually see it from healthy, degraded, and that's the monitor actually making those changes as it consumes them. And then we have responders, and responders actually take those actions. So they'll take the actions about the health state of the monitor and maybe do something. Maybe it's recycle an application pool, right? Maybe it's recycle IIS. Maybe it's restart the transport service. All these are valid actions from a managed availability standpoint. And they can also write to the Crimson channel. So that would be basically an alert as you see those things. And if you're using SCOM to manage it, or to monitor it, which I think is a very, very good idea, that's what you're actually seeing are those alerts being raised in the managed availability Crimson logs. You'll see on the screen, in 1 second here, there we go, and we zoom in a bit here. This is actually the Crimson channel logs that we have. So you'll see under Microsoft Exchange Active Monitoring, and let me kind of zoom in here a bit. There we go. So you'll see these particular logs. So we have probe results, we have monitor definitions, monitor results, probe definitions, responder definitions, monitoring, and recovery action results. And these are what we're using for this tool. So we're actually making queries with PowerShell into these actual logs to display them for you in a much easier to find format than you would before. And you'll see they're right there under your event viewer. You can look them anytime. And for instance, you'll just see this is just one of them we have here. We can see, basically it's informational, and then we had a couple failures from these probes. And it's just an example of how it looks, right? And we have these for everything. As you can see, we have maintenance definitions. That's actually the definition of a probe or responder or a monitor. And it lists up what their different thresholds are. Maybe the probe runs every 300 seconds. Maybe the monitor changes the state after 3 failures. Maybe it changes the state after 6 failures. They're all in these definition logs. And if you ever need to pull these logs, and you will be asked by support if you ever open a case with a CSS in the back, thank you, Steve. This is actually where they're located. So it's under C, Win Events, and you can actually see all the different ones we have listed here. And you'll be asked often to pull these and give them to our backline engineers for troubleshooting purposes. They also have a tool, an SDP tool, that'll pull these for you if you do have to open a case sometimes. But it's good for you to know where they're at as well if you want to write your own PowerShell scripts to pull those and look at them at some other time. And we talked about the probes, and these are generally just synthetic actions that are taken by Exchange. It can be anything from logging into a mailbox all the way through. So that'd be a deep test probe, OWA, same thing. Or it could be a customer touchpoint, a very quick probe, just making sure that mailbox is still there. So we can get to it, to make sure IIS is still running, to make sure the ActiveSync app pool is still there. So those are just the probes, and they're running constantly. I mean, you can see, Stephen, can you scroll over just a smooch? Thank you. I mean, look at the times on these. These are all happening in the exact same second. So these things are running constantly. It's one of the challenges about managed availability is that it happens so quickly. It's really hard to get a handle on what's going on it. And again, this tool is going to help us with that. And here you can see a probe, successful probe has a result of 3. A probe failure is a 4 or a 5. You can actually see in the XML file here, result probe 3. And this is where it gets kind of hairy. So I mean, this is successful, but what if we have a failure? Why did it fail? To actually get that kind of information, you have to drill into this XML. And it's honestly not that easy to read. So really, that's what we're trying to do here, and that's what this tool is going to do, is actually pull these probe failures out and show it to you in a more readable format so you can actually look at it and see what's going on in your environment. And a monitor just consumes the results of the probes. Like I said before, it's just waiting for these probes to run. It has a set limit from a definition about what it's going to do to that health state, whether it's going to be healthy, unhealthy, degraded, and perhaps take an action with a responder at that point. So you can see here, this is the actual definition of the probes. In our tool, we do have a get definitions piece where you can actually see the definition of the probe, how it's set up, the definition of a responder, and the definition of a monitor. So all this is visible there as well, so you can actually see what's going on inside the hood. And then, of course, we have our responders. These are our typical actions by our responders. Everybody, I'm sure, has seen these by now. So we can restart services, restart app pools. We can completely bug check a box if it really gets to that sort of necessity. And of course, we can escalate, and that'll put it actually to the Crimson channel log for monitoring, which if you're using SCOM to monitor, you'll see. Or if you're using this tool, you'll see it there as well. And of course, you can drill into these manually, but it's not exactly a great thing to do. And you can see for this particular responder, this is for the Exchange Mappy front-end pool. And then you can actually see some of the settings we have here. How many times has it tried between attempts? How many attempts in 1 hour? How many attempts in a day? So all these are in here. And we can see them, and it's not great. I mean, really, for the most part, working in the field, these monitors, responders, and probes are set up as they should be. There really is very rare needs to do overrides. You can do local and global overrides with managed availability if you need to, and in some cases you may have to. I always work with, or I recommend if you are in that sort of a situation, hopefully you have a case open with us in CSS, and they're recommending you to do that. It's not something you play around with willy-nilly, because you can really start causing yourself some more headaches than there actually is needed. And then, of course, we have our definitions. And the definitions is really how things are set up, whether it's a probe, whether it's a monitor, or whether it's a responder. These at times you also may be asked to change. I worked a case, not so long ago, maybe 3 months ago, that in this particular environment for our customer, they had some applications that are very, very, very heavy EWS users. So they're making local calls against the servers, pulling calendar properties, all these different things. And as a result of that, it really put a lot of pressure on our EWS backend on these servers. It was a smaller environment. So we actually had to go in and make a few tweaks to the EWS pieces of this, just so it would respond better in their environment. And we actually changed the definitions of the probes at that point. So it made a test not quite so often. Again, not something I recommend doing unless you're working with one of our engineers on the back, but it is possible, and you can do it. And these are just the definitions. Oh, I'll go back here. So what we have is a probe definition. Can you scroll in? You're going to have to zoom in a couple times on this one. So this is a probe definition, and you can actually see where it's defined. So what's the recurrence interval? What's the timeout value till it fails? All these are in here in the probe. I jumped ahead too. So yes, I'm going to get to zoom in twice. So this is an actual monitor. So this is the definition of a particular monitor. And that's saying, okay, how many times can I take a probe failure? How often? And then how often do I make it either healthy, unhealthy, degraded, offline, what have you? So you actually see those in the XML as well. And then finally, a responder definition. And the responder definition is just that. It defines what that responder is going to do. Will it recycle an application pool? Will it recycle the service? Will it restart that box? In some cases, restarting the box may be the best solution. Maybe we can't get it we're in an unrecoverable situation, and the only way to bring that back online to a healthy state is to restart that box. It's rare. I've only seen it a few times, but it does happen. And again, all these are definitions in here, and we can actually expose these through our tool if you're really curious about seeing that on the back end and what's going on back there. Recovery actions. Now, this is where it gets really good. So recovery actions is really where it's my third or second step in troubleshooting with managed availability. Recovery actions is another one of those log files, and it's actually shown you what Exchange 2013 has done at that point. Has it recycled a service? Has it restarted a service, transport service, or what have you? And really, that's that great place to start troubleshooting after you do things like Get Health Report to see if you have something systemic going on with your servers. So if you see OWA being restarted all the time, or you see Outlook being restarted all the time, or you see transport restarting all the time, that kind of gives us a clue as to where we should be looking. Maybe we have something in the environment that needs to be tweaked. Maybe our servers aren't set up properly. Maybe our virtual directories aren't set up properly. But it really gives you that good insight of what's going on your servers. I need one more hand. And these are the actual properties. Oh, let's go back one slide. Sorry about that. So 500 is when they actually start the event, right? So if a monitor, it says, okay, we actually need to do something, we log a 500 event saying, okay, this action X has been started. At that point, then, if it's successful, so if we actually are able to restart that service, we log a 501. 502 means we can't do that. Another red flag in troubleshooting. So if you see 502s come up in your recovery action logs, it's trying to restart something, but it can't. So there's definitely probably a problem there, and just needs further investigation. And these are some of the actual ID props within our recovery actions that are very useful. Of course, ID, that's the action that was taken. Whether it's recycle action tool, take it offline, server failover. The state of the actual resource at that time was the 500 or 501. The resource name, and that's actually who's calling it. For instance, you'll see in some of these, like MS Exchange MAPI front pool is just one that comes to mind off the top of my head. That's an actual resource calling that responder. So it's the monitor that consumes those probes for the front-end pool for MAPI. The monitor actually changes the state, and it calls the recovery action to do something. So you'll actually see what's calling it. So again, another great place to start your troubleshooting, or continue your troubleshooting at that point. And then you see the result, whether or not it succeeded, and then the actual requester name, which is the actual responder that did the action in PO. So when you're thinking about troubleshooting this, there we go. You can see this is recovery action results here. You'll see the 500 successful, a couple 501s in here where it wasn't successful. And really, and we'll talk about the methodology of troubleshooting this in a bit, really kind of think backwards, I guess is the best way to say it. A lot of people I see work this get really, really hung up on probes. So they're saying, oh, this probe's failing, this probe's failing, this probe's failing, what's going on? Don't look at it that way. Look at the recovery action logs first, because that's really going to tell you what's going on, what's been done. Probes may fail. Maybe you had a blip in IIS. Maybe your network had a hiccup. Anything across the line. So these things will fail, and they're designed to fail, and they're actually designed to keep the system healthy and do exactly what we're looking at. But it's the recovery actions that really is going to tell us what's going on and is where we should be troubleshooting at. Just another example. Can you zoom in one more time, Steve? Oh. And this is, you can actually just see the requester name. And these are the IDs I talked about. So you can see the ID, recycle application pool. That's actually what was done. You can see the instance name. That's not that great of an idea. You can see the resource name. So that's actually one of the probes and the monitors that's failing, that's actually calling this action. You can see the state, if it succeeded or not. And then you can see that requester name. So that's Outlook Recycle Test Pool. So if you see these starting to fail a lot or happen a lot, then again, another great place to look for your troubleshooting. You take it over there?
Nah.
So Steven's going to talk a bit more about the tool.
So who wants to see the tool?
Not yet.
So as Jay was mentioning, the way to troubleshoot it, pretty much start backwards and drill down, right? So some of the things that we actually use is the get health report, the get server health. You know, you guys all run those commandlets from PowerShell, I'm assuming, correct? Pretty self-explanatory there, right? So then we also, as he went through, we review the current managed availability logging, right? Investigate everything, correlate, and then review all the probe failures. I mean, it's rather simple. It's just tedious and time-consuming, right? Okay. So, real quick, this is our tool. Rather self-explanatory, other than the fact that the very top line where it says PowerShell URI has to be the FQDN of an Exchange server. It cannot be like a load balance name or something of that nature. The main reason why is because when you open up the PowerShell for Exchange management, it always calls an Exchange server. It never uses any type of URL. So this is a very busy slide, so try to stay awake because there'll be a lot of lines going here. Right? So like I just said, we have the PowerShell URI text box. Quite simple. Put in your URL. It has to have the /PowerShell on the end of it to connect. Right? After you connect, we will get a server drop-down text menu. This is auto-populated based on all your Exchange servers in the org.
And it pulls down everything you have in the organization. It's been tested thanks to the Interpublic group of companies over here. Thank you very much, guys. 64 plus servers is the biggest I've tested it in so far, but it works very, very well in that situation.
Yes, thank you again for being our alpha, beta, and whatever you want to call testers. All right. So we also have the standard health report button, so that way you don't have to run it. It will run off a selected server in the drop-down list as well, right? So, and same with the server health. Rather simple. Now, after you pick a server, we have two options here. We have what we call the LAM results, which is local active monitoring, or we have critical events. Okay, they physically pull from different logs, so you have to know what you're physically looking for. After you pick one of the events, it will give you an option to select a test. This list is auto-populated based off of the two radio buttons above. Okay, so it's rather easy. You just pick which exam or which test you want to run. If you switch back and forth between LAM and critical results, it will always update the list. Now, this next one, the work item type, is only for the LAM results. That is what you pick the probe, the monitor, or the what? Responder. Wow, lively group this morning, Jay. We should have done this like at 11 or something. Right?
The thing to remember about the local active or the monitoring piece, I mean, we're really talking about probes at that point. So this are probes and monitors and responders. The grit critical events pulls from numerous various other logs that we'll look at in some of the demos.
Correct. Thanks, Jay. And then by default, we only pull 101. Where the extra 1 comes from, I don't know. We just put that in there for giggles. Okay? But you can override that. You can put in as many as you want. Trust me, if you do that, it might take a little while longer to pull the logs, but you'll have so much data you'll want to go just shoot yourself. All right? We don't want to be in managed availability. Why would you want to see more than 100 items, right? But we give you the option. Then we have the get definitions, right? We all know what definitions are now since Jay went over it, correct? Right? Pretty simple stuff. Now this is the cool part. We did include the date time pickers for start time and end time. So if you want to investigate a week prior, you can. It's not immediately that moment when you do it.
Yeah. Now remember, these logs roll very quickly. So your probes, your monitors, responders, all these logs are going to roll. So you may only have a day of data. You may only have 2 days of data.
Correct.
Depending on what you're looking at and how busy the environment is. So if you start looking back a week in time, it won't be there.
It might not be there.
Yeah, it might not be there.
Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. But we do give you the option. You can even search far back as time will tell, right? But might not be there. And then last but not least, so you don't call us, we put a troubleshooting link down here. All right?
The troubleshooting link, if you guys are familiar with the SCOM, basically management pack for this, or the SCCM management pack for this.
This actually opens up a web browser so you have the latest links to all troubleshooting tips out there.
Yeah, so you can actually, there's some scripts in there to actually run a probe, force it to run if you need to.
Correct.
So that information's in there. We put it in there just so you're aware of it. It's not completely defined if you've actually been on that site before. A lot of it's there, but there are some that are still missing, and they're working to update those as we go.
Right, but that's the place to go for all the latest updates on anything related to managed availability troubleshooting. To me, that's by far the most helpful link. I send that to all of my customers, right? Even ones that don't want to use this tool, right? So, like I said, some of the common components here is the server drop-down menu. Again, that only runs after you connect to the PowerShell URI, right? The health report, we all know it displays physically a health report of the server picked from that drop-down list, right? Server health displays the results of all monitors and their current state. I love that one, right? The max results, I already told you the default is 101. Put in 10,000 and see what you get. It will work. It'll pull it. Okay? And then we also talked just briefly about the date time picker and the troubleshooting link, right? So again, some of the test types that we have. Hey, Jay, can you zoom in on that for me, please? Okay, we have probes, monitors, responders. And this is under the LAM results. As you can see, we've actually connected to some QDN of some server. I don't know where you got that one from, Jay, but okay. And then he's connected to his server EX1-2013. And once he selected the LAM results button, the populated list shows up when he hits the little drop-down menu. And these are all the items that are pulled from this server. Now, if you select a CAS server and it's only a CAS, right, you'll only get those monitoring availability lists. It pulls these from the server. If you have just a mailbox role, it will only pull the ones from the mailbox role. If it is a all-in-one, which, hey, guess what, we recommend you to do, it will pull every single one of them.
And these are the actual health sets you see displayed when you do things like Get Health Report.
Right.
It has the corresponding monitors, probes, and responders for each of those.
But it physically makes a call to the server from the server drop-down list and populates this list based on what is on that server. Oh, did we go too far there? Geez, I'm like Johnny on the spot here. Johnny Click McGee, right? Okay. So after you physically pick your little test that you want to do and the probe and so forth, there's that lovely Get Results button. If you notice in this screen, it's grayed out. That's because you haven't selected all the options that you need before you run the test, such as like the probe or whatever. Again, self-explanatory. It'll light up as soon as you pick all the right options and then send you a ton of results. Okay. Can you zoom in on that for me, Jay? Thank you, sir. So, just as pretty much as what you saw in the event log there, we have all the results here, and you can just see errors and which one physically threw out the error. We've also added, which is not on this slide apparently, the XML report of everything that it kicks out. So that way you can obviously troubleshoot it later. Now when we run critical events, okay, as you can see, the radio button is picked here. The drop-down list has all Active Directory, EWS, HA, all the important things that we deem in managed availability. The good thing is these are just in your application and system logs, right? So you don't have to go too far to actually read these. And again, you just run the get results. And this one more time, Jay. Thank you. Again, cluster database periodic cleanup did not detect a stale database or servers. It just tells you what's going on.
Can you go back to slide 2, Steph? See if I did it. Damn.
Oh, you're fired.
I know. I'm sorry. So you'll notice one more. There we go. So you'll see some of these on here that are not actually managed availability. Things like the HA, and that was the actual slide we looked. So this is looking at the high availability logs on your server to see what state your mailbox, your DAGs are in. So it returns that data to you as well. We thought it was useful to put in there, and we're kind of adding some things just thinking past managed availability at this point, because this tool, like we mentioned before, if you guys didn't hear it, this is really a work in progress. We're going to keep adding functionality as we go. And these are some of the things that we're starting to work in there. So it's, again, helping you troubleshoot things like your DAGs. And you expect more to come along those lines moving forwards.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah.
I forgot about also the recovery and monitoring.
Yeah, so you'll see under recovery here, that's the actual recovery action logs that we talked about. And I'll show you in the demos how these actually look. And then the monitoring piece is actually that Crimson channel that's logging anything that's been erased as an alert if you're monitoring at SCOM. So it's another great place to look for troubleshooting. And I'll kind of show you the flow of that when we get into the demo piece of it.
Which is coming soon. Yeah, we already did that one there. All right, so using the managed availability troubleshooter. You want to do this one, Jay?
I can walk through, sure.
Yeah, go for it, bro.
All right, I'll probably just do it from right here then. So this is the actual, if the demo doesn't work, we got this part of this so at least you get to see it, right? So this is the piece, and you'll notice kind of the steps we talked about here. So review health report, review the server health. So there's two separate, just basically exchange commands that we can use, right? At that point, we'll look at recovery actions and the actual monitoring that's going on. Then we can look at those recovery actions, correlate them to the actual probes, and you'll see it's actually really easy to do. When you actually start pulling these, you know which probes to look at. And then we look at those probe failures to try to figure out what our next steps are for those troubleshooting pieces. Just a quick zoom here. We've seen this before. Relatively easy and straightforward. How did I do that? So we're starting off, of course, with our Git health report. Everybody's very, very familiar with this. If you're not, this is a great intro to it. So this is just running that Git health report. And you'll see all the different health sets. And as we look at the actual probes to actually look at these, or the responders and responders, you'll see they line up one-to-one with these health sets. And you can see these are the different states that it's in, whether it's healthy, degraded, unhealthy, back online, or completely offline. So those are possibilities that we'll have there. So it's a great place to start to look. So, okay, something's wrong with the server. Somebody's reporting. Maybe my users can't log in. Maybe something's going on. So I start looking at my different servers, pull up Git health report, and then I can see which health states then we're in. Now, if I move to the next one, this is now going to be Git server health. So if you ever looked at this before, this is an actual blow-by-blow of all the probes that are running in your environment. And if you can zoom in on that one for me, Steve. You can see how this looks. So this is absolutely everything. The nice thing about how this formats out is, of course, it's in this out grid view. So you can click through it and sort. So you can sort by unhealthy, you can sort by healthy, you can sort by degraded. So it makes it even easier. You can sort by different probes. So that, our health sets are going to have naming conventions, of course, OWA MAPI, OWCTP, all these different probes. So you can search through it that way as well. So it makes it a little easier instead of just going through it by text or however you do it from a PowerShell method. So after I get a handle of Get Health Report and Get Server Health, I kind of know somewhat what's going on, but I don't have a clear picture yet. So this is where I'm going to start looking at Get Critical Events. And Get Critical Events, like I mentioned before, this is the monitoring piece of it. So this is actually looking at that Crimson Channel Active Manager, Managed Availability Active Monitoring log. And you can see, this one is a little hard to read, but if you can zoom in there for me, Steve. It gives you a bit of everything that's going on. So this is all failed probes going on in the environment at this time. It may be OWA, it may be anything else, but it gives you a bit of detail right there, right now. So you can see we're trying to actually hit our back in for OWA, and it's failing. Why is it failing? We don't know yet, but I mean, it's a place to start. We can start looking there. Maybe something's wrong with that application pool, maybe something's wrong with IIS, and it actually gives you a bit more detail, as you can see here. It tells you where to go to actually see those protocol logs. So again, if you're good at reading these, you can look there yourself, or if you're working with our engineers, you can provide those details to you, and you know exactly where to go to get them at that point. After I look at that, I want to see those recovery action logs. And remember how I'm working through this. So I'm really going top to bottom. I'm not starting with failing probes. I really don't care about the probes failing. They're going to fail at times. Well, I want to see what's actually going on that box. So I looked at the health reports. I looked at server health. I looked at the monitoring, so that's going to show me failing probes. Now I want to see if anything's actually being done. Maybe those probes are just failing once every now and then. To be expected, things happen. Like I said, network blips, maybe something with IIS, just depends. But it's those recovery action results that's actually going to tell me what's going on. And you can see here, after I get results for that one, we actually get a lot more detail. So you can actually see what's been done, whether it's restarted the service, as you can see here with transport, or whether it's actually taken that component offline with all my different IIS, as you can see here. And it's pretty easy at this point. If I'm reading this, I know what's going on. I know something's up with IIS. I mean, if you look at all the different components we have here, everything is one of our virtual directories at that point except for transport. So there's definitely something going on here with our virtual directory. Now, since I know it's someplace in that line, I can actually start digging in. Let's go back on that one. A bit deeper to actually look at some of these probes, right? So I click through here. And this one I actually did for all probes, just to see what's going on. And you can see the different pieces in here. Now, there is a lot of good information on this particular results. And I wish I could read it from out there because it's a little bigger. You guys can see it better than I do, I think. But there's really good, because this is actually showing you why these probes are failing, what's going on. For instance, you can see IP address offline from my clustering. You can see the different pieces of transport failing. So you can actually see, Microsoft Transport is not running. It's actually telling you why it's failing right there. So again, it's a great way to dive into that probe. Instead of just seeing it pop up saying, oh, something's wrong with this probe, it failed, it's actually telling you why it's failed. And that's really what we're trying to get at with this tool. Okay, so that is the click-through piece of it. Now we're coming into the demo piece. Everybody wish me luck. I think this will go well.
Anybody need a break?
I know it's a lot of information, guys. All right, that should pop over. Beautiful. I also have a terrible fear of typing on stage. I don't mind talking on stage. Typing on stage I have a problem with. I never understood it. It's the strangest thing in the world. So here we are in our lab environment. These are all multi-row boxes. I only have 2 for demonstration purposes. And you can see the MATS tool here. That is not a mouse. And it's simply just an EXE. It's a stethoscope, troubleshooting, trying to help figure out what's going on. So this is the EXE. And this is actually available for download right now. We placed it up yesterday in the scripting center. We've had 10 people download it so far. I'm assuming those are all 10 friends of mine. I'm not sure yet.
One's mine.
but they actually, 10 people have downloaded already. So it's freely available for you guys. We'll have the URL here at the end. And like Steven said, this has really been a community project from the get-go. We're premier field engineers, if you guys are familiar with what those are. So we actually work with you guys as customers out in the field. But we've been collaborating, with customers, working with them, other PFEs, and our backline support guys on a lot of this. And we really want to have your feedback, because we really think this has a lot of legs to it, and we can do really, really cool stuff. So please download it, test it out, give us whatever feedback you have, and we'll get it incorporated into the tool.
And on another note, somebody over here earlier said script it when we were talking about the 5-minute warning thing. Right, I always have the methodology of once I'll type it out by hand, right? Second time, I'm a little aggravated. Third time, it becomes a script. Hence, that's what this is. Okay?
I completely agree. So really, I'm just opening up the tool now. All I do is just double-click on the EXE. You can see it pop up, and basically all it's doing in the background, it does open the EMS at this point. So you can actually...
No. It doesn't open the EMS till you connect.
Right, sorry. But you can actually run this not on an Exchange server. So if it's in the corporate LAN and you can connect to that PowerShell URI, of course it's not a published URI, so we can't do it outside of it. But you can run it from computers within your environment if you can connect. So you don't have to be on a server to do this. It's one of the pieces we kind of like about it. So just copy my URI, place it in here.
And that's because he doesn't like to type in front of you all.
I hate typing. I'm going to be happy if I can get this password right. I heard that.
Don't worry, I got a keylogger over here too, so I know what it is.
It's okay. It's willisdillon.com, so my domain name, I own it. If you guys want to hack it, go right ahead. There's absolutely nothing on there. So you can just see what basically happened. So it connected. It shows me how many servers I've connected to in the environment. So I have 2 at this point, just because it's 2. If you have more servers, of course, it's going to display those. When I was running this in a larger environment with one of my customers helping me out, it said it was about 64 servers, and it took maybe 2 to 3 seconds to enumerate all of them. So it runs very quick. The performance impact is almost nothing. I saw about a 3% CPU bump when it first runs, and then the RAM stayed flat the entire time. It works well going across the WAN. So if you have a DRS, a DR location with Exchange servers, you can use it from your primary site going across. I know, DRS, right? Going across the customers I was working with, that's what they call their DR site. But so you can actually go across the LAN, pull results from those servers as well, if you need to. It comes in useful at times when you're thinking about HA. So those high availabilities, we want to make sure our copies are in good shape over there as well. So you can actually do it that way. And then once I'm into the tool, it's relatively straightforward at this point. I'm going to try some zoom in here. There we go. How's that look? Not too shabby. And now you can see, basically, I have my drop-down menus and all those different pieces. So I'll just start with the server. You'll see it enumerates localhost first. So we do pull up that localhost if you don't want to type in the name or put in the name of your server you're running on. But of course, you can do that. And I'll just start with Exchange 2013, my first one. So remember how we talked about troubleshooting. So get health report, get server health, and walk our way down. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I've done a lot of things to these servers. They're on all kinds of broken states, so we're going to see a lot of different results here. And we'll just look through them and walk it and see how they go. So the first thing, of course, is just click on Get Server Health. And here we are.
That's pretty quick, wasn't it?
Happens immediately. And this is just our Get Server Health, and you can see the different health states here. Most things are healthy. But I can actually do a filter, and I can just list out all my unhealthy components right there. There we go. Trying to get used to this thing. Nice.
Hey, I didn't know this was our class.
Yeah, no kidding. So you can see I actually look at my unhealthy components right away, and you'll see immediately what's going on in the environment from a health standpoint. My health sets for clustering, transport, database space are all basically unhealthy. And I can switch servers back and forth, so that's great for that server. What if I want to look at a different server? Just close it, select the other server from the drop-down menu, and look at its health report. Same sort of thing. I can do a filter, look down to see what's unhealthy. So there you have just immediately a lot of good information just from those health reports, and it's a little easier than going through and running it in the scripts. Maybe you're not comfortable with PowerShell. You all should be, but maybe you're not comfortable with PowerShell, so it just puts that there, right at your fingertips. So I see some things are unhealthy, clustering, all that fun stuff. So then I want to see a bit more. So I'll run git server health. I'm going to switch back to my other server, just because I can. And again, pops it up immediately. Nice grid format, you can filter. You can do things like see exactly what's the health state, what's the value, whether it's disabled. A lot of these are disabled. And basically what's going on in your server from a component level. So these are all the separate little bitty probes that are running all the time. So you can actually see each one of them. And of course, this updates quite frequently, so it's going to change day to day as you go through it. But it's a great way to troubleshoot. Maybe we're troubleshooting one particular issue. Maybe it's just transport. Or things like server one copy. You can see my server copy is not healthy. You can see my clustering is not healthy. These are all things that I've done to the environment just so that it shows us some valid data. But at that point, it's like, okay, well, I know something's going on with transport. I know something's going on with clustering. Let's keep looking. So I'll go to critical events, and I'll look at monitoring. And this is what's being logged to that Crimson channel about all the different things that you would see in SCOM if you were doing that monitoring piece, right? So now you can actually dive into the server and see all these results in real time and go across multiple servers. You don't have to rely on some management pack and just, basically a dashboard to tell you what's going on. You can actually go into it. And you can see a lot of good data in here. So you can actually see why my clustering is not healthy. You can see what's up with that one server cluster or copy event. You can see what's going on with transport. So a lot of this data is right here exposed to you very, very quickly and very, very easily. Just zoom in a bit on that one so you can see it a little more.
Tell you, Jay, looks like you need to buy a new hard drive, man. You're running out of space.
Again, these are just labs. So you can actually see a lot of this information. You can see low on space. You can see if you look right below that gray box, MS Transport Service has been stopped for some reason, so that's why I'm getting all these transport errors. So again, it just brings that information right to you so you can see it. So at that point, I've seen the monitoring. So now I want to see actually what managed availability has done. So again, this is where we're looking at the recovery action results, right? So now I pop in here, go to recovery, get results, and you can see everything that's been going on here. This is everything the Exchange has actually done to my servers for one reason or the other. And you'll notice all of these are kind of focusing on IIS again. In transport, you see my RPC RPC self-test being restarted, transport trying to restart, all these different functions basically that I've disabled with an Exchange just so we can see this. But it brings it right here for you. And once I see something like that, for instance, if I see Outlook RPC self-test restart a number of times, then I really kind of know, there's definitely something going on here. And since I know my Exchange very well, like you all do, I know that's part of IIS, and I know that's a virtual directory, and that's what we're connecting to for our endpoints. So I start troubleshooting there and see what's going on with this piece of it. And again, same thing with hub transport. You can see, basically, I have a lot of EAC. Basically, I've disabled IIS on these boxes, so that's why we're kicking all these errors out. And you'll see quite a few things when you're actually doing this with your servers live. So just really focus on those recovery action results. And at that point, I can start looking in to see what's actually doing those. So we'll just take Outlook for that particular one, Outlook RPC. So since I know that's there, I'll switch over to the LAM results. Local active monitoring really is the official name for managed availability. If you guys haven't read some of those technicals, that's what we call it. And this is where we start getting into the probes, getting into the monitors, getting into the responders. So I know this thing's going on with clustering. So let's just look at all the different pieces for clustering right now. And you'll notice as I select these probes on the screen here, these are all my different health sets. So everything that we saw on the Git server health or the Git health report is listed here. So you don't have to go looking through all these with your different PowerShell scripts, pulling them out, and then running your tests. You can actually just click on them and run the tests from right there. So let's go up to clustering. And now I have some choices. I can do some probes, monitors, and responders. Since I'm looking at the probes, I'll look at that. If I click on the monitors and responders, it's going to show me what their state is and what they've done and basically all the different actions taken there. But for the monitors piece, or the probe piece, I just click on probe, click on get result. There you go. Now this, if you've ever sat down and troubleshooted managed availability for any length of time, this is actually very hard, not hard, it's tedious to get to. It takes a lot of time to actually track down those probes, find the right actual PowerShell command to run, and then to do it. And if you're doing this on a fairly regular basis, then it's extremely tedious. So really, really can get into this really, really quickly. And there's great information here. So you can see right off the bat, A, which machine it is. So of course I'm running on EX1, so it's going to tell me which machine. But if I'm running it from another server, running it on my workstation against my servers, it's going to tell me which server it is there. It's going to tell me when this probe was run. It's going to tell me the service name, so that's actually which service is being impacted by these probes. So of course it's clustering here. And then you'll see that result name. And that's actually the name of the probe that is running these tests out. So you know where those are as well. And then it gives you these very, very, very handy errors. And it really walks you through step by step what's going on. So you can see with this particular cluster group what's going on is basically I don't have a quorum count, I don't have an IP address. And we saw that earlier. I've been playing around with a lot of this stuff just to break it. You can see cluster service is offline. My IP address has failed because I removed it. So that's where you can actually see what's going on. It tells you basically, word for word, what's happening to your environment, why that responder took that action, and why that probe is failing. And that's really what we're trying to get to with this tool. But we can look at some other things too. Let's see if we can look at transport. So I just select transport. Get results. They may or may not have results. Sometimes if you don't have results, it just won't display them. And it'll go back and basically give you another drop down at that point. I don't have any going on right now, it seems.
Just trying to load them.
They don't have a lot of them.
So now is a good time to go get a cup of coffee. You need some. Wow, that doesn't look good, brother.
I have a lot of them. I don't have any of them.
You killed it.
I did. Always happens. All right, so we bring it right back in. I love demos, just for that reason. So we're opening it back up, and we'll look at it again. But that's the local after managing piece. So that's the probes, monitors, responders. We'll take a look at the definitions here in a second. And the definitions are more just for your knowledge to know how they're defined if you do need to change them. And we'll look at the rest of the critical events, because there's actually some really, really good information in critical events. Pick them back up, and there we go. All right, so back into critical events there. So you'll notice we talked about the monitoring, we talked about the rest of the pieces. Now we put in one particular command here that does all. And that's going to pull all of these different ones you can see right here. So basically, I call it the shotgun approach to looking at a server. So you can see a lot of different information all at once. So I'll just run that one really, really quick. And just hit get results. And you'll see it start pulling up data here in a second. This one takes just a few seconds just because there's so much data to pull. At least it should. There we go. So you'll see a lot of windows start popping up here. And it's really the shotgun approach. So I'd look at things like store. So if you got a lot of 94, 64 errors, right, with store users map too many objects open, it'll pull open things like that, because those can be impacting to your environment. You can see the different fault applications that are going on from a perf. If we've had some sort of a Watson report, those will come up. You can look at the uptime. You can look at the diagnostic service. You can see here I actually killed diagnostics on this just for this demonstration purposes. And it actually tells you diagnostic service isn't running. We actually need that because that's what we're using to log all that performance data in Exchange 2013 on an automatic basis. So if you're not seeing that or it's not looking proper, this will tell you that as well. We have OWA system logs. It'll tell you if there's any sort of application pool restart in OWA. Also tells you if there's any sort of Watson dump going on there, so you know how to troubleshoot there as well. Same thing with Outlook RPC. It'll tell you what's going on with that particular service, which is probably one of our most critical services we have with Exchange 2013. For instance, you can see here the process went down and it restarted. I actually killed IIS like I mentioned before just so you could see this, and it actually shows you that that process was restarted. More Outlook RPC. You can see the recovery actions we're taking with Outlook RPC. You can see our HA, and we looked at that one before. And this is a great one, like I mentioned before, something we're adding into the tool as we go forward, to actually look at high availability from a DAG perspective. I really foresee, as we move forward with this, looking at things like cluster, looking at things like transport queues. Basically, all these troubleshooting steps that we as field engineers do all the time, and you as guys do all the time as well, and just making it a lot easier for you so you don't have to spend all that time trying to relearn it every time you troubleshoot it. And then we have EWS logs as well to actually look at the EWS service, all good here. I put EWS in here because I do a lot of EWS work with some clients. So I like to know just basically how my Macs are going to be connecting as well in this world, or if they're running custom applications for their Exchange Outlook. And that's the actual critical events, all of them. Like I said, you can run these piecemeal. You don't have to run them all at one time. You can go one at a time to actually pull this data out. And then, of course, we have things like our definitions. If you actually want to see the definitions of the various probes, I'll pull up one here. Let's look at the monitor. Or a responder.
Oh, you did hit to get definitions.
You're right, I didn't. So that's just the responder in general, if you want to look at it that way. If you want to look at the definition of the actual responder, click on Get Definitions, hit Get Results, and it'll pop you up and it'll tell you what the actual definition of that probe, responder, or monitor is. And you can see here it's actually which one it is, what's the target resource it's using, what's the interval in seconds, and we can expand this out as far as we need to go for all the different settings within that particular monitor, probe, or responder. Oh, I got the red light going on.
Well, you've had the red light going on the entire time.
Oh, okay, that's right. It's supposed to, is it supposed to be green, yellow, then red?
Yep.
That's what I thought. That's kind of weird. Anyways, so that's the demo of the tool. Again, we just make sure one of the biggest takeaways from all of this is we'd like you guys to actually go out, start downloading it, start using it, tell us what we've missed so we can get it in there. Again, like I said, Stephen mentions we've done numerous iterations. This is actually our 7th iteration of this tool. We started a year ago. Back at, if you guys are familiar with Tech Ready, it's our internal training at Microsoft. This was a pet project that Ben and I worked on for a bit. We brought Stephen in for the following Tech Ready. We started bringing this actually to our local peers to help them work with us. And now we're bringing it to you guys as an audience to even make it better. We're very, very open for any comments. If you hate it, tell me you hate it. Tell us you hate it. Just keep it constructive as possible. And we'll keep working forwards to make it the best tool we possibly can. And this is where you can find it. So aka.ms/m.a.t.s.
That's real confusing, isn't it?
Well, actually, we tried to do MATS, and that was actually already taken by somebody at Microsoft. Can you believe that? Or you can also download it from our Yammer feed that's going on right now. Please also use that feed. Any comments you have about the session, let us know. We really take this stuff very seriously. Stephen and I, we work a lot with the customers, and we really enjoy this.
And you can also post any questions there about the tool. I'm actually watching it right now, or I was. Yes, sir.
We're not there yet. I don't know at that point. There's a lot of things that have to happen between now and then for something to be like that. It's something we're actually looking towards, though. One more slide. One more slide. What? Oh, the question for the recording is whether it's going to be an officially released tool. We're not there yet. So right before everybody leaves, 2 things. Don't leave yet. Wait.
Pause.
Make sure you fill out your evals. And if you are at all interested in the TAP program, so that's getting involved in Exchange release early, please talk to the guys downstairs. Follow the website here. They really want us to get as many people we can on these newer Exchange products as they come out. So please, please be there. Thank you, everybody.